Speaker. I've been away from this place for a bit, and the arrival of a new child always focuses one's mind into the distant future. And I think the important part of this debate is to remember that we need a balanced approach to this. The challenge, of course, is that, and I think everyone would have to accept this, that it's wealthy nations that can do something substantively about their environment. Of course, I think all of us want to achieve a cleaner, greener environment, but we want to do it from a position where we strengthen our economy, because by weakening our economy, we won't have the resources to do what we need to do with respect to protecting our environment. And that's why, Mr Deputy Speaker, while I was on leave, I was quite frankly gobsmacked to hear that the Labor Party had adopted effectively a policy position that called on 50% of renewable energy by 2030. Now, I thought to myself, as I travel around my electorate and I talk to producers, principally food processors, and I'm grateful for them, they tell me that aside from wages, the second most significant input cost to their business is the cost of electricity. And I thought to myself immediately, what is a policy position like this going to do, if it were ever government policy, my goodness, to the cost of electricity? Quite frankly, Mr Deputy Speaker, this policy would see the cost of electricity rise to a point where you couldn't fly a rocket over it. The member for Hunter is someone who I've come to spend a bit of time with, particularly on the Joint Committee for Agriculture, and he seems to be a sensible bloke. I probably like him more than I should. It's one of the things you learn about coming to this place, that you seem to make friendships on both sides of the place. But he was asked, well, what would this cost? Not once, not twice, as if on Mount Sinai, Mr Deputy Speaker, he said no one knows. And that's the reality. No one knows how incredibly expensive this shift would be. On the other hand, our government is taking a sensible approach to renewable energies. We've adopted effectively a target on renewable energies which is sensible, balanced and achievable, as opposed to far-fetched, fanciful and entirely unachievable. But what it will see, and we saw from earlier contributions, is a doubling of the renewable energy rollout over the next few years, as we've seen in place already. And I mean, that's the point. We've got to ensure that we can achieve this. It's one thing to speak to our base to move further and further to the left because we're concerned for our vote being dilated or diffused by the Greens, but it's another thing to come into this place to govern and implement policies which are achievable. And that's what we've seen, Mr Deputy Speaker. We've seen a government which has helped push us to a point where we'll reach our Kyoto targets. By 2020, we'll be there. Indeed, we'll exceed our targets. We'll better our targets, and so it will be, I'm sure, in terms of the targets which are sensible and measured and have been announced recently. And we're not going to do it with froth and bubble, with respect. It's hard work. It's practical, on-the-ground measures. It's very easy, I think I'm making a point, to come in here and simply say we'll achieve a 50% target by 2030, but we're not having a real discussion about what that does to the Australian economy, how it weakens it and how it makes it even more difficult to achieve positive outcomes for the environment. And I've said very little, Mr Deputy Speaker, about Labor's reckless 40 to 60% target in terms of climate, in terms of carbon emissions. That'll be a $633 billion hit to the Australian economy. I don't know when we went from speaking about millions and billions so easily, but it's $633 billion hit to our economy. That's money that we could be applying to a cleaner, greener Australian economy. It's a 6% fall in per capita income per person in the nation. It's a $4,900 reduction in take-home pay. It's equivalent to a carbon price of over $200. Mr Deputy Speaker, the nation knows that only a healthy and prosperous country can do something about its environment, and we should avoid this.